So why didn't the vegetable farmer get upset about the rain? Because he didn't care at all. Why can't you tell a secret in the garden? Because the corn has ears and the potatoes have eyes. Oh, Gary here from Pathways Homestead, and today I'm working on some preserving. I'm cleaning up the carrots, some carrots we harvested. You know, we've had a odd garden year. The last 2 years there's things that haven't done well in our garden that have done well at times. This year, our squash and our cucumbers, they've just not done well at all. Our beans are pretty much non-existent, but our carrots have done really well. And so while we're going to start working on preserving those, we'll probably can some and pickle some and add some to some recipes. We may even freeze some. But I'm going to start by just cutting the tops off of all these. I got them out here on this table, and I'm just cutting the tops, throwing the tops in a bucket so they can get fed to the pigs or the chickens. And I'm piling them on this, piling the carrots that I've cut the tops off of on this old window screen. You know, sometimes, always when you're homesteading, there's things that get thrown at you that you're not expecting, like certain crops in your garden or whatever completely failing, animals dying, stuff like that. And you got to be ready to just roll with the punches. I guess there's a lot of life lessons to be learned when you deal with things not working out like you planned. I know that there are bigger things than whether or not I got squash or cucumbers. And I have plenty of carrots. So I am thankful for the carrots. One of the things that's kind of odd, we haven't always, carrots is not something we've done a lot of good with before. We have had a few years that they did okay. We've had a few years that they produced a lot of fern and not any carrot. And we don't even always plant carrots because they a lot of times don't do well. But this year we did. We did plant carrots and they've done well. We've got some little ones, but I didn't thin them real good. I've got one long row in the little garden of carrots, and I have thinned and pulled carrots out of there and pulled carrots out since they started putting on 2 months ago or more. There was some that was big enough to start eating, so I started thinning some of the bigger ones, and we kept using them, but a lot of them didn't get thinned. So you can see there's some little ones too. But in about half of that row, after it had been thinned, and that was the end that got thinned probably the most, after we've used a lot out of it already, half of that row, I'm going to guess there's 20 pounds of carrots here out of a 35-foot row or so, half of a 35-foot row, and that's pretty good success. So when you're homesteading, when you're farming in life, you gotta learn to be thankful for the successes. You gotta learn to be thankful for the good things. And Paul says we ought to be thankful in all things. In one of his letters to a church, and so I'm thankful for carrots. And we'll see what all we end up doing with these. And they're going to be great to have on the shelves come this winter. One of the things that attracts me to homesteading, one of the things I like about homesteading, and one of my early draws in it when I was young, was growing your own food. absolutely love growing my own food. It tickles me to death to sit down to meals, and we often sit down to meals where we have provided everything on the table, everything we eat. A lot of times it's all but the spices or a little bit of dairy or something like that. Sometimes it's all of everything. And sometimes it's just a vegetable and some meat, and then everything else we have purchased or traded for. But I love growing our own food. There's a connection there. There's a connection to God there in that direct provision. And you can still come very close to God, just as close to God, and buy all your food at the grocery store. But for me, this is a special connection. And those are good carrots. A few times I have grown carrots, and they've been pretty sharp, almost bitter, have a grassy flavor to them. These are sweet, pretty mellow. They definitely got a lot of that carrot flavor to them. And they're going to be plenty of work too, but regardless of what you have in life, regardless of how you choose to live life, it's probably going to be work. If you go have a good job, pouring concrete or teaching at school or working in an office, you can go work and then use that money to buy the things you need, and that's going to be work. If you spend more of your time trying to grow the things you need and produce them yourself, you're going to work at this. You're going to work at that. And there's no way to get through life and have a successful, fruitful life without work. It's always going to be work. And there's nothing wrong with that. It amazes me when I look at the story of the fall of man in the Garden of Eden in the book of Genesis, that there are two things that exist in the garden before sin. More than that, but two institutions that we still have today. One of them is marriage. Adam and Eve were joined together as husband and wife. The whole bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh statement. Adam and Eve were joined together as husband and wife. The whole bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh statement, which is a wedding vow, was before sin in the Garden of Eden. And another thing that was in the Garden of Eden was God told Adam and Eve to take care of the garden, to tend the garden. It was work. It was very fruitful work, very successful work, without the failures that we know today, because work that was unsuccessful at times, that seemed fruitless at times, that was part of the curse after Adam and Eve sinned, but not work itself. So work is something that is important to us as human beings. It's part of our being created. It's part of in our DNA. It's how God made us to be. He made us to work. He made us to be in a relationship with Him. He made us to be in a relationship with each other. And He made us to be productive. I would love to be tending a garden where the squash bugs didn't come, the rain never failed, or the dew, the moisture never failed. Would love to farm where it's always successful. But I'll never know that in this world, because that's not the way it is for us as humans. But I can still know success, and I can still know love, and I can still know relationship, and I can still know fruit of my labor. And that brings me closer to the one that created me for that. Most of all, I can know a relationship with Him, and that's been restored after Adam and Eve failed, after Adam and Eve sinned. That's been restored, or given the opportunity to be restored in my life through Jesus' sacrifice. And carrots, and a load of carrots, a good successful harvest of carrots in the face of other things failing, is a reminder. A reminder of our Father, our Creator, a reminder of our flaws, and a reminder of His redemption. Nothing goes to waste around here. You guys might know if you watch many of our videos that we like frugality. We like to not waste. We like to be able to save, get by on less. But nothing goes to waste around here, and pigs and chickens are part of that. So are goats. If there's fruit or vegetables that go bad, if there's food that stays in the refrigerator too long, it tops off with carrots, which they say you can eat. But if you've ever eaten those, you won't want to. I've tried eating a carrot top a time or two. I just think it's pretty gross. But you know what I do like? I like eggs. I like pork chops. I like goat burgers. And they'll eat that. And they'll love the carrot tops. The chickens and the pigs and the goats, they'll eat that. So we feed it to them. The best recipe I have for carrot tops makes it taste like pork chops. You feed it to the pigs and then you harvest the pork chops.